Hey everybody, Ryan here at eTrailer. Today on our 2006 Tiffin Phaeton Motorhome, we're going to be showing you how to install the RVS 4-camera observation system. But before we do that, why don't we check it out and make sure that this is going to be the right kit for you. So here inside of the motorhome, we can kind of talk about our system. Usually we go outside and try to get on the road and show you how this works. But today, we have a couple of projects going on with this, so it's unable to be driven currently. So we're going to do our best here to explain everything. I think it should work out pretty good. But with that said, you know, driving a motorhome or anything of size actually is a little more nerve-wracking than just your regular car. You know, there's a lot going on. You got to pay a lot more attention and be a little bit safer. And so anything that you can do to kind of add a safety feature or make you a little bit more confident whenever you're driving is definitely well worth it, at least in my opinion. And I feel like a system like this is going to be able to do that. It's going to give you some better angles. You're going to be able to see what's going on a lot better. Not to mention too, since you can put, I mean, you put the cameras anywhere you want really, but ideally you're going to have one in the back, right? And that makes it really easy whenever you're backing up into a parking spot or any tight area, just to have a better view directly behind you. And what's cool too is flat towing vehicles is getting super popular nowadays. So I'm sure you all have seen it. You got a motorhome or coach going down the road and you have you know, their personal vehicle getting towed behind it. Well, a lot of times, especially a motorhome of this size, you can't really see that towed vehicle. It's just a lot more narrow. And so having a camera back there is going to allow you to go down the road and kind of keep an eye on things, you know, especially when you're flat towing. That's one more aspect of something that you're going to have to worry about. And so having a way to kind of keep an eye on that can definitely kind of put your mind at ease. And if you do see an issue, you know, you can stop, get it fixed, and continue on with your trip. So now just to actually check out the monitor, a little more what's going on with it. So you're going to be able to hook up 4 cameras. Okay, so you know, usually do each side, one in the back. You could do one in the front. That 4th camera is kind of completely customizable. Some people do 2 cameras in the back, one up high, one down low. Some people do it on the side by their you know, their front door or their side door rather, to see people coming and going. Choice is yours. Our customer today just said, give me the 3, the 2 sides and one on the back, and that'll be more than enough. So we have the back display now. So you know, we're in our garage, so we see our garage door. A couple of things I actually do like about the monitor: it has this sunshade on it, and that's a big issue with a lot of gadgets like this that we've done in the past, whether it be camera systems or tire pressure monitor systems, anything that has a screen. A lot of times the glare just kills it, you know. And so the shade should definitely help out. The image quality is actually pretty decent. It kind of surprised me of the quality, because a lot of times these type of things, you know, they're just not the greatest. And this one's actually been pretty decent, honestly. I was relatively impressed with it. The screen is big, so you're gonna shouldn't really have any issues seeing it, even, you know, sitting back a few feet, be able to see what's going on. And you know, there's a lot of different things you can do. So you can kind of scroll through your images manually. So we have the back right here. We have our driver's side looking back. So this is kind of like if you were looking into your rear view mirror almost. This is what you would see. You can cover a lot more ground with this, so it gives you a pretty wide angle. So that should really help with like blind spots. Especially if you're towing a vehicle or a trailer behind you. You know, sometimes it's just hard to judge. So you can see a car all the way back there, and give you the more confidence when you make a lane change, or if someone's cruising in your blind spot, whatever. I'll close our door in a minute here, but we have our door open, and so obviously the camera's just getting a good shot of that. But that's our passenger side, same deal. And then channel 1, that was our blank screen. So if you were to have your other camera plugged in, it would display that image. But we have a split screen. You know, we have both side views, our driver side, passenger side. rear and both sides. So it really does a lot. I mean, you can kind of go through this, you know, you have them all in quartered sections. So you can really go through this and figure out which one you like. And again, channel 1, that's our, where we don't have a camera. So if you were to plug one in, display that. You go through a bunch of settings, you know, you could adjust the volume because this does have audio on the back camera. So if you were to, you know, kind of have someone guiding you into a parking spot or something, it'll pick up on their audio if they're trying to talk to you, say go left or right, and you could hear it through here. So that's pretty cool. And then, I mean, just pretty standard stuff. You know, you can adjust the brightness of your screen and everything else like that. So pretty neat. And, you know, it should definitely make things a little bit easier on you whenever you're going down the road. There's a couple different ways you can actually hook this system up. So you can hook it up to where your cameras are powered on all the time, and to change them, you just have to manually go in and push a button to give you that different view. Or you can hook up the cameras to a trigger wire. So 3 out of the 4 cameras you can do this with. Generally, you do your side cameras and then your back camera. And so right now we have the back. Let's say if we're making a left turn or making a lane change, hit our blinker. Whenever you hit the blinker, it gives you that view. And so that's pretty cool. You know, you check your mirrors, check that, and make your turn. Whenever you click it off, there is a slight delay, which I kind of like because you turn your blinker off, sometimes you still want to get over another lane or whatever, and it kind of hangs around. So after a second, it goes back to normal, to your normal rear view there. Same thing with the right turn. Hit your right blinker. I closed our door, and you can see what's going on. So pretty neat. Like I said, I wish we had the opportunity to start this thing up and show you a little bit more, but I also wired it up in a way to where when it's running and you put it in reverse, it'll show the back. And then when you do that, it actually gives you a grid. You can turn the grid off if you want to, but there'll be a grid that comes out and kind of helps you, you know, back to the spot. Kind of gives you an idea, something to go off of how much distance you got actually behind your motorhome. So I just wanted to kind of show the cameras. So the side cameras, this is what they're going to look like. Actually pretty nice. I was pretty surprised when I picked it up. They're really heavy. The housing is metal, probably aluminum if I had to guess. And there's your lens. So they do have some infrared lights around it to help in those low light conditions. So at nighttime, when the sun's going down and everything else, still be able to see. There are a couple different ways you can mount these up. So I decided to do the flush mount way. They give you some really good sticky tape that you can apply to the surface, and then I just use some screws too, just to, why not? And I think it looks pretty good, but they'll give you some brackets too that you can use and get more complete adjustability with this. However, if you're using them to kind of seat on the side, this is more than good enough for sure. But you know, with these systems, people do a lot of different things with them. So at least you have that hardware and that option to set it up a little bit differently if that's what you're trying to do. And the camera here in the back, this is what it looks like. In our case, we already had a camera there from the factory, but it was inoperative. And we were actually able to make that little area work. It turned out pretty good. But just to take a better look at the back camera, so you'll get 2, like I said, it's a 4-camera kit. Obviously, one of them's up there, the one that we're not using. This is it. And kind of like what we talked about. So this is going to, all the brackets they give you, you know, you're going to have a lot of adjustability in terms of pointing the camera where you want it. They give you a little visor here that you can put on too to help with the sun and the glare like we kind of talked about earlier. In our case, the way the camera was positioned already, didn't really need to use this. Just because of the angle of it, but like I said, you definitely got the option. So let's say if you wanted to maybe just mount this one up in the middle of the back of your motorhome for whatever reason, you know, you could bolt it up and then use this visor to keep the sun right out of the lens. So nice touch, and it's one of those things that you're happy that they include. If you need it, excellent. If not, no big deal. So when it comes to other camera systems, you know, there's a lot of them available on the market. And honestly, from my experience, they're all really close. You know, they're all about the same. Just to kind of compare, generically to, let's say, wireless systems. So the wireless systems are really nice because they're a lot easier to install. You don't have to run a ton of wires and tap into stuff. But on the same note, just like anything wireless, sometimes you run into some connectivity issues and things like that. So it could get frustrating from time to time trying to figure that out if it happens. The good thing about this system, though, it's all wired. So although you got to go through the trouble of doing it once, everything's hardwired and you're not going to have to run into those potential wireless connectivity issues. So, the trade-off's there, and you kind of have to figure out what you prefer. But speaking of running those wires and everything, as far as the installation goes, it's definitely time-consuming. Not so much that it's really confusing or anything like that. It just takes so much time. You really have to think things through on where you want to mount things and if you can run them through there and having the wire and getting it all done like that. So something to think about. And definitely my advice would be think it through, plan it out how you want it, see if it can be done first, and go from there. You might have to make some changes along the way and kind of make a compromise in some spots, but kind of is what it is. As long as you stay focused, though, you should be able to get it done. If you want to see how we hooked up ours, feel free to stick around. We'll go ahead and do that together now. To begin your installation, you're going to be here inside of the motorhome. And before we even get started, I want to mention, every one of these installs are going to be a little bit different, just depending on how you want your cameras set up, where you want them mounted, how you want them to work, the layout of your motorhome, and so on. So just use all this information as a guide, essentially, to help get you going in the right direction. But with that said, the first thing that I like to do is figure out where I want to put our monitor screen. That way we have something to work off of, where we need to run our wires to and from, and things of that nature. So kit comes with quite a few different mounts. You can choose whichever one works best for your particular situation. So we put our monitor right here. Our customer actually gave us a suction cup mount. That way you could put it on the window and mount it up like so. So we kind of modified a few things to make this work. Kit doesn't come with a suction cup mount, but like I said before, it has a lot of other mounts. Ones where you can mount it flush into your dash. There's a swivel mount similar to this, but it's got sticky tape on it. Bunch of different ways, so use whatever's best. From there, so you're going to have this wire coming off of the monitor and a main cable. All right, one end of the main cable is going to look like that. Bunch of pins in there. You're going to plug this in. And only plug in one way too, so don't try to force it if it's not going. You'll find where it goes. That's going to plug in. And in our case, the end of this cable runs underneath of our dash and out through the opening here. Okay, so I kind of got a cluster of wires here, but these are all going to get hooked up to different things. So we'll go ahead and kind of talk about that now. So here's the end of our connector plug that we plugged into our monitor. These ends are eventually going to go to our cameras. Okay, so I already have a couple of them hooked up, but we'll get to that in a moment. What we can focus on now is all these wires that are coming off. And like I said, there's a lot of different ways you can hook these up. You can power up the cameras so they're on all the time, or you can trigger them. We chose to do the trigger method. So that way, let's say if you're going down the road, and you turn on your left blinker, that the left camera is going to come on, or the right camera. You put it in reverse, the backup's going to come on. But you can, also, if you do it this way too, you can go on your monitor and make you see whatever image you're trying to see. That makes sense too. But with that said, you're gonna have a handful of wires. You're gonna have a red wire. This is your power source. So I hooked up that to 12 volt power source. You can go right to the battery, but your monitor is going to stay on all the time. So you'll have to manually power it off. Or what I did was went to a keyed ignition power. So whenever you turn the key on, it has power, and then the monitor comes on. You turn the motorhome off, it loses power and shuts it down. So that's what I did. And I'll show you the connector plug that I hooked into here in a second. I just want to explain what's what. Your brown wire, that's going to be labeled channel 4. That's going to be for your right turn. All right, so the passenger side. Yellow is channel 3, so that'll be your left turn. You're gonna have a black wire, which is ground, so pretty straightforward there. And then the blue wire, channel 2, that's gonna be your reverse light signal. So whenever you put the motorhome in reverse, power is gonna come up to it and run it through this blue wire. So with that said, I'll show you where I hooked all these into. So what I tapped into is this harness that goes into essentially our gauge cluster. There's a little light bar at the top that kind of tells you what's going on. You know, you can see your blinkers flashing and display some messages like wait to start and all that type of thing. The left turn signal is the thinner diameter yellow wire. The right turn signal is the thinner diameter green wire. And I know these are tricky to see, so just kind of bear with us. It's just really difficult in these tight spaces. The 12-volt power wire is going to be a pinkish color wire, and then your ground wire is going to be black. The reverse light signal we are going to have to acquire from a different location. We'll get to that later on. But the way I tie it into these is I simply just use some quick splice connectors that you put around the wire, put the new wire in, and pinch this little metal piece down, and that makes the connection. Those are something you are going to have to pick up separately. They don't come with the kit, but in this case, that's the best method, or the easiest method that I found to use, so that's what I did. So at this point, you can mount up your front cameras. So I already have the passenger side one done. We'll show you how to do the other side. I just wanted to give you an idea what this is going to look like. Again, just this is going to depend on how you want everything set up. This is probably a pretty popular way to do things, but you are going to have to drill a hole and think about a few steps ahead before you do this. You know, you want to look behind everything, make sure you're clear. You don't want to drill a hole and just pray and hope that you have an opening to work with and everything. So think about everything. Do want to mention the cameras are side specific. So there will be a sticker on the back side of them telling you which way is up and what side is which. So pay attention to that. And yeah, they give you some sticky tape. It works really good. You can also use some screws in conjunction with it. But this is how it turned out. Why don't we go ahead and go inside, and I'll show you where the wire comes out and what we plugged into. So the wire is going to run over to where all of our connectors are. So I ran ours underneath our dash pad. It'd be virtually impossible to see on camera, so just use your imagination. Chances are pretty good you might have to take some stuff apart to get that wire over here, but here's the end of it, and this is where it came out. And now we can plug it in. So since our harness here, the brown colored harness, is for the right or passenger side, you can hook it up. Again, these all go together only one way. Push them in. It's a little set jam nut there. You can screw that down like that, and there's a little cover too, kind of a sleeve that you can push over this, and this will just help keep everything protected and help keep it together and things like that. So here on the driver's side, we can get set up. We're going to get our camera ready. Like I said before, pay attention to the orientation of the camera. You know, you want it to be on the right side. But clean off the surface real well with some rubbing alcohol. And then I put on our sticky tape. Going to get that put in place. And then you can get ready to get mounted up. So like I said, you are going to have to drill a hole. What I suggest doing, you know, find that spot. Look under your dash where there's an opening, whatever. Make sure you're clear and you can drill a hole. So not a bad idea to put some painter's tape on here. And I used a hole saw. I believe it is a 3/4 inch, and was able to punch through everything. And With that done, we can take our end, push that all the way through. And there is a grommet on here you can slide back and forth. Kind of odd though, because if you were to put it flat, and obviously the camera wouldn't sit flush, but there are some brackets that come with this. I think you can use that grommet with those, but it's kind of a multi-layer deal inside of here, so I'll kind of just push that in there. And believe it or not, it should help seal it up a little bit. Actually, it looks like it's working pretty good. So I'm gonna get this all the way in here, kind of get it ready where I want it. In our case, I put it up flush against this this trim piece here. So I already cleaned off the surface. Peel off our sticky tape. Make sure it looks square. Looks pretty good to me. We'll push it tight. And this tape works really well actually. But to be on the safe side, we'll probably come back and put a couple screws in it too, just to kind of double secure it. So if you remember where we had our camera and we pushed the wire through the side of the motorhome through the hole that we drilled, here's where it came out. And so the one connector end connected to one of the bundle of wires. You get a bunch of these, I think 4 of them. Obviously, if you want to use a short one, you don't really need to extend the wires or anything, but you have to use the bundle to pair the two connectors together. So that's what I did, plugged it into there. Other end of the bundle of wire will connect to the yellow connector, since that is the driver's side channel. So once that's done, we'll put our sleeve over it, and that'll wrap up that camera over there. Now here at the back of the motorhome, we can get this camera in. Now in our case, we originally had an OEM camera in here, but it was junk, it didn't work anymore. So I really wanted to utilize this pocket that was already here. So we had this factory bracket our old camera was in, took that out, bolted up our new camera. And obviously you want to position it in a way that is going to be best suited. You're going to have this connector here that comes off the back camera. Set that aside. This works the same as all the other ones. So you're going to take the long bundle of wire. I think it's a 30-meter bundle. Connect it to there. Put your sleeve on it. And then you're just going to take that big bundle of wire and drop it down through this opening. That wire is eventually going to get ran all the way to the front, up into the dash. So exciting stuff. But once we have that connection made, we can just drop this back down in there. And re-secure it the opposite way. So you know, everyone's going to be a little bit different. Like I said, in our case, once I bolt this flat, I actually had a kind of a cover deal that you can modify and get it to look pretty good. So that's what I'm going to do. So we're still at the back, and if you can imagine that wire being dropped all the way down, and if we open up our compartment back here to our engine area, the wire come down right through here. So there it is, and I just zip tied it up. Whenever you're routing wires, you want to do your best to avoid any hot or moving parts. And so I just dropped it down, and then I actually brought it over to the passenger side of her motorhome because it's just a little more ideal running it through this engine area. So right when you get to about this area, you can just kind of take it easy for a second. And while we're doing this, you also want to run your reverse light signal, if that's the way you want to hook up your camera, to where when you put it in reverse, it'll turn on automatically, the backup camera. So that's what we did. I'm going to show you what we did, how to get that hooked up, and then we can get our wires routed up to the front. So here's how we tapped in. So we have our tail light. This bulb here is our reverse light bulb. And so it went from a white wire to a factory green wire. I cut that in half. This red wire here is a new wire that we're going to use to run all the way up there. You will have to get your wiring separately if you want to do it this way, because it doesn't come with it. And obviously quite a bit. Our motorhome's pretty big, but you're going to strip back the ends of the insulation, twist these two wires together, put them in the butt connector, and recomplete the circuit. That red wire is going to drop right down where we left the other wire hanging. That way we can run them both up to the front at the same time. So underneath of our coach here, you can see that camera wire and our red reverse light wire. And you're going to want to run these all the way up to the front. Now, everything's going to vary a little bit depending on your model and motorhome and things like that. It's just so difficult to actually see and get our camera coming up here and, you know, show you what's going on. But like I said before, avoid any hot and moving parts. A lot of times what you can do is once you get past the engine area, it's pretty flat and open on the bottom. Sometimes there'll be some square frame rails that you can run your wire through. Regardless what you do, just make sure it's safe, secure, and everything else. And once you get all the way up into the front area, then you can push it up, find a way, usually under the dash, or there'll be a grommet or an opening or where other wires are running, where you can push it up into the dashboard area and get everything hooked up. So now back inside of our motorhome, our reverse light wire and our video cable wire came up inside here through the dash where everything else is. Camera gets hooked up to the blue connector, channel 2. And this is actually our reverse light wire. So originally I know the color was red. Fell short of wire though, so I had to extend it and just change it to white. Not really a huge deal, just what I had laying around. And connected it to our blue channel 2 trigger wire here. So I feel like now would be a great opportunity just to kind of quickly test our camera system, make sure it's working properly since we have everything all hooked up. That way, you know, before we bundle up all of our wires and clean everything up, if there's any issues, we can get it fixed. With that said, this is a 4-camera system. Our customer only wanted 3 cameras. That fourth one you could put in the front or on the side, wherever you want. It would hook up the same way, but we're not going to worry about that one today. But with that said, we'll key on our ignition, and we do have a power light indicating to us that this is ready to activate. So go ahead and turn that on, and we have some of our channels here. So there's the back, the driver side, all 3. So you got a bunch of different views here. So there's the back, driver side, and this is the passenger side. We have our door open to get in, so that's just a good view of the door. But I want to check our trigger wires too, so I'll hit our left turn signal. We should see the driver side camera come on, which it does. We'll try our right turn signal. We should see a view of the door, which we do. And I'm not going to test our reverse signal just yet. We actually have the air system in this coach taken apart at the moment. But chances are really good. If these triggers are working, that one is too. You'd simply test it the same way. You know, start it up, put it in reverse, and make sure the backup camera comes on. But now that we verified everything's working, feeling pretty confident with this, we'll go ahead, kind of bundle up all of our wires and get it all put back together and looking clean again. And that'll finish up our look at and our installation of the RVS 4-camera observation system on our 2006 Tiffin Phaeton Motorhome.